Welcome to training. My name is Ivo, and I will guide you through the details about RTLS kit deployment. After this course, you will know how to deploy basic RTLS solution for small POC, demos, or test purposes. The RTLS kit deployment module is part of the project delivery process. It is necessary to understand how to correctly deploy it and set the anchors, RTLS Studio, and tags to be able to show the most accurate localization. The demonstration of the RTLS system is usually done after the site survey, when the area and use case are defined. In this module, I will give you an RTLS kit overview. I will talk about networking, RTLS Studio deployment, and initial steps. We will end up with a demonstration and troubleshooting tips. What is RTLS kit? The RTLS kit is pre-configured set that is ready to use. It is great for small demos or POCs, with proviso that you can cover an area up to 400 square meters or 4,305 square feet. A small demo, up to 5 anchors, can be deployed on a Wi-Fi network. The RTLS kit is delivered with the Wi-Fi anchors. We recommend using a VirtualBox deployment of the RTLS Studio for RTLS kit. It is the simplest and the quickest way how to deploy it. I will talk about the requirements in more details during the video. What does RTLS kit contain? In the package, you get 5 anchors Omni with wall mounting brackets, 2 tech assets, and 2 tech personnel. There is also a Wi-Fi access point, a USB to PoE converter, coin batteries for the tech asset, a wireless charger for tech personnel, UTP and USB cables, a vest, and other. The kit doesn't include power banks and tripods, but we highly recommend buying these locally to achieve the good impression, especially when you demonstrate the kit at a customer site. In our public documentation, you can find tips on which tripods and power banks are suitable for RTLS kit. So you have received RTLS kit and you can start with the deployment and assembly. As mentioned, RTLS kit includes 5 anchors Vista Omni. The Omni anchors must be installed with the antenna straight up, or in some cases, like when the anchor is very close to the ceiling, with the antenna pointing down. Do not bend the antenna. The antenna must be straight to keep the ideal omnidirectional radiation pattern. The best practice is to mount the anchors on tripods for demo or testing purposes. The RTLS kit includes tripod adapters for easy mounting. Then you can easily assemble the anchor using the tripod adapter on the tripod. The anchors are deployed on the tripods and you can power them up. Use the USB to PoE converter and included cables. Interconnect the cable with the power bank via converter. You can use a Velcro band to fasten the converter with the power bank to the tripod. As you know from the previous L2 training module, the anchor have to be installed with the antenna pointing straight up. It is a preferred option. If the anchor is very close to the ceiling, and here we are talking about less than 20 centimeters, deploy the anchor with the antenna pointing straight down. To achieve the high accuracy, the anchors should be mounted at the same height. Never place the anchor directly on a wall or ceiling. Use tripods or wall mount bracket if you're considering deploying an anchor on a wall or ceiling. Here are some examples of correct installation of anchor Omni on a tripod, wall, and ceiling. Below you can see incorrect deployments. The key aspect for the RTLS system is to keep line of sight. The line of sight must be always present between the master anchor and its neighbors within the localization cell to have a correct synchronization. There must be also line of sight between anchors and a tag. To be able to calculate the position, the tag must be visible to a minimum 4 anchors. All devices need to be in the same room. If you deploy each anchor in a different room, the localization will not be accurate. Always follow square geometry during RTLS kit deployment. Ideally, deploy anchors at a 1:1 ratio. Here you can see an example for a deployment of 4 anchors. The square geometry and line of sight will help you deliver a highly accurate performance. RTLS kit includes 5 anchors only. When you deploy all 5 anchors, the best position for the 5th anchor is on the longest edge of the cell. Adding an anchor in the middle of the localization cell can cause inaccuracy. The maximum localization cell size is 15 by 15 meters. Anchors are deployed on a tripod in square geometry with a line of sight and are powered up. Now we can connect the anchors to the network. Part of the RTLS kit is a wireless router. Wireless deployment is suitable for only small demos of up to 5 anchors. The project or POC should be deployed via wired solution. Here you can see on what needs to be considered when deploying anchors in a Wi-Fi network. The main rules have been already mentioned. Up to 5 anchors per access point, and that the Wi-Fi network must be dedicated only to RTLS system. Also, TCP synchronization needs to be used when the anchors are connected wirelessly. Here you can see the topology. The anchors are in a square geometry and connected wirelessly to the access point. Then the access point is connected via a cable to RTLS server or laptop with RTLS Studio. The wireless router is delivered in its default configuration, so it's necessary to be set up. Here and in the next couple of slides, you can find all necessary steps. Firstly, plug a router into the power supply via a micro USB connector. You can use any USB charger as a power supply. Connect your computer to its LAN port using an Ethernet cable. Be sure that the Internet interface is set as a DHCP client. Open a web browser and enter the following IP address: 192.168.8.1. Choose language and go to Next. Type in a new password, RTLS Wi-Fi, and click Submit. Go to Wireless section and modify a Wi-Fi setting. Change a Wi-Fi name, SSID, and Wi-Fi key, the password, which is set on the anchors. You can see the credentials on the screen. Go to the section More setting and LAN IP setting. Change the default router IP address to the new IP address, which is 192.168.225.1. It is IP address from the range what we are using in the default. Wait until the router reboots. If it does not redirect you automatically, enter the new IP address 192.168.225.1 into your browser. When the router setup is complete, the new credentials are username root and password RTLS Wi-Fi. Now you can start deploying the anchors. The wireless router is set as a DHCP server with the IP address pool 192.168.225.100 to 249. If you are considering deploying the kit via cables, there needs to be a configuration change on the anchors. The anchors from the kit are pre-configured for the wireless deployment. To set the anchors for the Ethernet deployment, you need to disable Wi-Fi and set the static IP address for each anchor. If you do not disable the Wi-Fi interface, the anchor will forward all data to the Wi-Fi interface, even if the anchor is wired to a switch. Both parameters could be changed in RTLS Manager section Anchor Setting, as you can see below. The anchors have their Wi-Fi interface disabled and have static IP addresses. Now, the anchors can be interconnected by cables. You can see an example of the Ethernet deployment in a picture. The anchors are deployed and interconnected. So we can now move to the RTLS Studio deployment. What are the system requirements? The server or laptop where you deploy RTLS Studio should have a powerful enough CPU. In the table, you can find an example of a server suitable for RTLS kit deployment. So, an RTLS system with 5 anchors and 4 tags. You can find more details in our public documentation. Make sure that no ports are blocked within the network. It is a common issue that the firewall is blocking communication between RTLS Studio and the anchors. A list of required ports can be found in our public documentation. Now, we can start with the RTLS Studio deployment. The easiest and the quickest way to deploy RTLS Studio is in VirtualBox. There are only 2 requirements: to have VirtualBox installed on your laptop and to download a VirtualBox image from our Savio portal. If you would like to deploy the installation on a native Ubuntu or Docker, see our public documentation. In this presentation, we will follow deployment in VirtualBox. So firstly, go to the website of the VirtualBox and click Download VirtualBox 6.1. Download the latest VirtualBox package for Windows host. Open the downloaded file and finish installation process of VirtualBox. After the installation of VirtualBox has been successfully completed, you need to download RTLS Studio VirtualBox image on our portal. Once you have VirtualBox image of RTLS Studio, open VirtualBox and add the image. Then select the image and click Open. The image will be added into the VirtualBox. Now, make sure that the settings of the image are correct. Go to Settings section Network. The Ethernet network adapter must be selected, as well as the cable connected checkbox must be checked. After these steps, RTLS Studio should launch. The software is launched and you can access the RTLS Studio via GUI. There are 2 types. Once the VirtualBox is running, your computer will need to have an Ethernet cable plugged in, otherwise you will not be able to connect RTLS Studio. Also, ensure that VirtualBox has enough resources. You should set at least 2 CPU cores, and for your laptop, please set it to full performance mode instead of power saving mode. Access the RTLS Studio GUI via the Chrome browser. The default IP address is 192.168.225.2. The login is Savio RTLS. The password is SenseMap, all small letters, as you can see on the screen. We recommend using the latest version of the Google Chrome browser to get the best experience with our product. Make sure that you do not enter a typo. It is quite common mistake. Also, if you have an issue with accessing the studio via browser, make sure that the laptop is set with the IP address from the range to be able to communicate with RTLS Studio. The IP address 192.168.225.2 is the IP address of the virtual machine, not of your computer. You need to assign the static IP address for your Ethernet interface on your laptop. For example, 192.168.225.15. Also, you need to have wired Ethernet connection from a laptop to a wireless router. When you access the RTLS Studio for the first time, you must select a region. The region defines the system setting based on the certifications. After, you will access the RTLS Studio main page. The RTLS Studio has several sections. RTLS Manager, which serves as a configuration and control tool of the entire RTLS system. SenseMap, which is a tool aimed for anchor deployment within the building, adding floor plans, virtual zones, and showing a real-time positioning of tech on a 2D plan. SenseMap 3D, which is a tool for real-time positioning visualization of the tech using a WebGL 3D accelerated engine. You have a Sage Analytic, which is a very nice tool for demos. I will talk about it later. You have access to database and RTLS Monitor, which is nice for troubleshooting. You can the RTLS Monitor shows the overall performance and workload of the client's computer. You have connection. You have details about API documentation. You can change the user management, and you have a link to documentation on our Savio website. Backup and restore. It's a service allows you backup the current snapshot of the system or restore the previous one. RTLS IO. It's a tool or software product whose main purpose is to connect the localization system within the real world. The last feature is device care, which is not available yet. We are working on it, and it's a tool where you can see the status of all devices within the RTLS system. So what are the initial steps you should take to start localization? You need to add the anchor in RTLS Manager. Proceed with initialization, check synchronization, and add the tag height. As the next step, it's necessary to add the floor plan, take the anchors on the sense map, and add height of each anchor. On the next slide, I will describe in more details each step, as well as showing you basic troubleshooting. Firstly, RTLS Manager. Go to RTLS Manager from the main page of RTLS Studio. We need to add the anchors into the system. It is done in RTLS Manager section Anchor Summary. The anchors should appear automatically. If not, you can add the IP address range where the anchors can be found and rescan the anchors. After the scan, you should see the anchors. In the anchor summary, you can find general information about the anchors, and you can change anchor parameters like localization mode, sync and blink profiles, and regional settings. As already mentioned, the anchors in RTLS Kit are pre-configured, so you do not change any setting here. You can also add an alias for each anchor. You name the anchor for better orientation, as you can see on the picture. It is beneficial when you adding the anchors into the sense map. So all anchors are visible in RTLS Manager. The next step is to run initialization. Go to Initialization section and select the new anchor initialization. Define the IP address range and check with auto deployment. Auto deployment will be used in a sense map later. Run initialization. You can see the progress of the initialization. The anchors consecutively measure the signal quality between each anchor. When the initialization is done, the RTLS system suggests the master anchor. You can click Set as a master. The suggested master is set as a master anchor. Now we have a master and we can check whether the synchronization is okay. The stability of the synchronization can be reviewed using the synchronization stability graph. Go to the Sync Stability tab. There are three metrics to be checked: second difference, first path, and RSSI. We can consider to being a good synchronization when the second difference is below value 1 and the first path and RSSI are below -90 dBm. Here is an example of good synchronization. The master with the alias window left can synchronize with 3 neighbors. The second difference is below the value 1. The next example shows bad synchronization. The master with the alias A01.02 does not synchronize with all neighbors correctly. The neighbor A01.03 and A01.04 have the second difference above value 2 and there is some packet loss. If the synchronization is not good, you need to check the line of sight between the anchors, mainly from the master to its neighbors. As already mentioned, there needs to be a clear visibility. One more parameter needs to be added. It is called Z-axis compensation. The parameter defines height of the tag above the ground. It is used when the height difference between tags and anchors is present. You can add it in the RTLS server setting. In the tag summary, you should be able to see the online tags. The green color indicates that the tags are online. Now we can move to Sense Map. Go to the Sense Map from the main page of RTLS Studio. When you are in a Sense Map for the first time, a tutorial guide goes through the first steps. What needs to be done? Launch the Sense Map visualization tool from the RTLS Studio by clicking its icon. Go to Building Setting. Create a new building and set up your building and name. Add a new plan and type the name of your floor plan. Select the floor plan from your laptop via Select File button. Define the scale of your plan via the Scale button. Define 2 points on the floor plan and enter the measure distance. It is in meters. Save your building. The floor plan is added and scaled. We can add anchors into the Sense Map. We use data from the initialization we did in RTLS Manager via the Anchor Auto Deployment feature. The tutorial in the Sense Map will guide you through the Anchor Auto Deployment as well. If you skip it, you can find it in RTLS tab section Anchor Auto Deployment. Select the last initialization and load the button to deploy the anchors automatically. Place the anchors on the floor plan using the buttons and apply. The RTLS system knows the X and Y axis of each anchor. Now it's important to add the height of each anchor. Add the height in a Node tab by finding a specific anchor and pressing the Edit button. When added, you can also see information about that axis when you hover your mouse over the anchor. Remember, the precise anchor coordinates at the centimeter accuracy level are crucial for precise positioning. Now the localization should work and you should see the text in a Sense Map. Your RTLS kit is deployed and there is a question what to show a customer. During the demonstration you can show several things like tag tracking, finding a tag, zones, tag zones, or show an example of output data via Sage Analytics. Tag tracking is simple. Go to RTLS tab, section Node Tracking Statistics. Select the tag and start tracking. The positions of the given tag is now present in a Sense Map. You can define how many positions you would like to display. You can also see localization statistics like number of position, several time gap, or maximum time gap. Another feature that's great for demonstration is zones. You can create a virtual zone and present site events. The events are visualized in a Sense Map, including the tag name and type of the event. Similar information can be sent via the API. There is also option to create a zone around a tag. It's called a tag zone. This feature allows you to track when two tags meet or separate. You define the radius, and when two tags meet, it's considered as a meet event. Once they are no longer in contact, a leave event is triggered. The Learner Personal has a button. By pressing the button, you can visualize the tag in a Sense Map. Also, an event via the API can be set. If a tag position is unknown, you can find the last position of the tag in the plan via the Find button in a Nodes tab. The last tool for presenting the data during the demonstration is Sage Analytics. It's a part of the RTLS Studio and enables the presenting the positioning data using graphs and metrics. The data can be present as, for example, a heat map, spaghetti map, etc. This tool has its limitation and is designed only for the demonstration purposes. Finally, I will show you a few troubleshooting tips. RTLS Manager contains a status panel in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Ideally, the status panel should be all green without any red crosses and explanation marks. If there is a red symbol, you can find a short description of the issue by hovering over the symbol. The status panel is a great tool because it helps you localize any issue quickly. If the localization is still not as expected, you should check the synchronization in the greater depth. It's crucial to have a good synchronization, and it's the first thing I would check if I connected to your system remotely during a support call. If you are not sure where an issue could be, or you have localized the issue but you do not know how to tune the system, you can create a capture. It is the easiest way for us to support you. The capture helps us to analyze problem in your system because it contains all the network communication between anchors and the RTLS server. Go to section Backup and Restore, subsection RTLS Capture. How to create a capture? You can see the steps here on the screen. And now, how to share the capture with us? You can easily open a ticket in Savio's support desk or via Savio portal under your project, as shown on the screen. Please describe your issue as much detail as possible. It means information related to environment and issue description, what tag, MAC addresses or aliases are related to the issue. Ideally include picture of your deployment with the capture. Having enough information is the key to being able to understand your issue and will speed up the finding the solution. That is all about RTLS kit deployment. If you have still any question, do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you and have a nice day.